Welcome back to Stand Firm. Father Josh Waltz, pastor at St. Joseph's in Mandan, North Dakota. We're doing a little different twist on the video. We're going to do a little series kind of reaction videos to videos, and hopefully a little bit of catechesis in it. So we're going to start with this one, which is simply nuts.
I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red. I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red. She the devil, she a bad little bitch, she a rebel. It'll take a whole lot for me to settle. She the devil, she a bad little bitch, she a rebel. She put her foot to the pedal. It'll take a whole lot for me to settle.
It's not hard for us to see that abortion is literally the sacrament of Satan. For anyone who doesn't know, the Satanic Temple is opening the first ever religious abortion clinic network for ritual purposes. So it doesn't necessarily shock me that celebrities are now promoting it in their music videos. I just think this whole thing is incredibly ironic because for years people claim that pro-lifers were the ones that used abortion as a religious issue, but now it's the Satanists. I also think it's important to note that every time I've talked to somebody who claims to be pro-choice, they're the first one to ever mention religion. But abortion isn't a religious issue. It's a human rights issue, and no religion should ever permit brutally killing an innocent human being. And I really wish demonic songs weren't so catchy, because it normalizes and distracts people from incredibly disturbing things like somebody dressing up as Satan just to kill their Satan child. Also, make sure you send this to the next person who tells you nobody celebrates abortion, because clearly, not only do people celebrate it, some people worship it.
Yeah, wow. So that's where we're at right now as a society. That's, there's a couple things I want to react to in this video. First of all, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a guy's name is Zachary King. He was ex-satanic high wizard. And the way he kind of, explains that is that he was kind of like, the high priest in the satanic church is not the highest rank. The wizard is the highest rank. And they're kind of like a cardinal because they don't really have a pope. But he talks about the ritual that they would use. And the ritual that they would use is they would always use abortion. So the movie Nefarious captures this really well. There's a great line. I mean, there's a lot of great lines in this movie. If you haven't seen it, you got to go see it. It's an amazing catechesis on the demonic and how the devil works and how we're just falling hook, line, and sinker into this thing. But there's two characters basically in the movie, right? Dr. James Martin, which is hilarious because if you don't know who James Martin is, just Google it. Just don't put doctor, put father. It's hilarious that they use that name. But anyway, so he's arguing with the demon about the demonic plan, right? About how they're trying to destroy us. And he says this, he says, so that's it? That's your entire plan? Not to make something of your own, but just to destroy us? And Nefarious, the demon, responds, he says, no, our plan is to hurt him, to punish him. And we do that by destroying what he loves, which is you. Now, if you think about this, if the devil's attack, he can't attack God, so he's got to attack God's creation, right? And so he attacks us. We're the pinnacle of creation. And the best way to come at us is to attack that which is most innocent, most vulnerable, and most in need of love. That thing is the pinnacle of what the demonic hates. And it's the pinnacle of what God loves. And so this Zachary King, he talked about how in these rites, these rituals of the satanic church, that they would have abortions as part of the rite. Right? Sure, there's desecration of the Eucharist and all this other stuff, but when they wanted a favor from Satan, they kind of gave him a favor. And so when he wanted to cast big spells, all this stuff, and major things to happen, and you can watch his whole testimony, major things do happen, they would use an abortion. But this is not something new, you guys. This whole thing about abortion in the modern day and age, it goes back so far. I mean, like if you look at the demon, the archdemon Moloch, right? This was around like the Bronze Age. It was like 3000 BC. And this was when human sacrifice was in full effect, right? He was a Canaanite god. And the way they worshiped him was they would sacrifice children. And basically what they would do is they had this huge bronze statue, and he has two outstretched arms, right, or hands, these palms. They would kindle a fire underneath each of the palms and make the palms just, glowing red hot. They'd take a child in sacrifice to the god. They'd lay the child onto the palms, which would be horrifically, painful. The child is screaming in order to drown out all the sound, right? They had these loud beating drums so nobody could hear anything. The child would willingly throw itself into the fire just to get off of the burning hot metal. And that was the sacrifice they offered to this archdemon Moloch, who they called a god, right? So again, Nefarious has I just got to quote it for you because it's so good, you guys. So he says, Nefarious says this: the archdemon Moloch was celebrated and worshipped by tossing infants into raging bonfires, covered over by the sound of drums, drowning out the screams. Later on, they erected a giant bronze statue with outstretched arms with fires kindled beneath the palms, so that when the priest tossed the infant into the open palms, they would scream and willingly roll themselves off into the fire below. Then James, whose girlfriend is having an abortion, he says, what does any of that have to do with me? And I love his response. He's like, oh, nothing, James, nothing, except the priest now wears scrubs, and the killing takes place in the womb where there is no screaming to be heard, and the remains can be tossed into gas-fired crematoriums. No, James, there's no parallel at all. Can you imagine the agony that the carpenter feels when we rip a child to pieces inside its own mother's womb? Because that's what we do. You and us. We do it together, James. It is just chilling. You know, when you hear about the archdemon Moloch and this horrific human sacrifice of infants, and you're like, that is just an abomination. The fact is, we've made it worse, you guys. We made it worse. Now we're doing it right inside the womb. How can, and the devil, he isn't even hiding anymore. This Doja Cat, whatever the hell her name is, she is just publicly pronouncing her worship of Satan. And she's showing on the video that the satanic practice happens through abortion. I mean, it used to be that the demonic was kind of in the shadows. Now, he's out wide open for everyone to see, and seemingly nobody cares. Everybody's just following suit. And so the encouragement is to see it for what it is. It's a murder of a child. It's an abomination to God. And above all, it hurts him. And we talk about the woman's rights and all these things about the woman. Yes, women are great and they have rights. Nobody's talking about the rights of the child. Nobody. That child didn't choose to come into existence. That child has rights too. And so you and I, what we need to do is fight this with everything we got. And realize that we're not fighting against the human rulers of this world. Forget that. As Paul says, we're fighting against principalities and powers. We're fighting against the demonic itself. And so fight strong, fight hard, and don't give up. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you back at Stand Firm Productions. You can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, all the social media feeds. Subscribe if you want, and get the word out. God bless you guys.